They called it justice. They called it necessary. An innocent man stood beneath a white oak tree, and by morning he was dead. But trees do not forget, and on a night of thunder and wind, the oak answered. This story is available in English and Hindi. Change audio track and settings. It is best experienced with headphones, so relax and listen. Through the wide, smoke-stained windows of Jim Daly's saloon in the small town of C, the setting sun bled into the room like a wound that would not close. Golden light stretched across the wooden floorboards, across the dusty counter, across the anxious faces of the men gathered near the bar. The air inside felt thick. No laughter rose. No dice clattered. No glass struck the counter in careless cheer. Even the usual smell of whiskey seemed subdued, because news had arrived, and it had arrived like a knife. Walter Stedman, a laborer on Albert Kelsey's ranch, had assaulted and murdered Kelsey's daughter. The name of Margaret Kelsey passed from mouth to mouth, softly at first, then with disbelief, then with outrage. Margaret, young, kind, the pride of the ranch, and now dead. Anger moves quickly in small towns. It spreads faster than truth. It requires little evidence and feeds eagerly upon rumor. A farmer stepped forward, clearing his throat. He claimed he had seen the crime. He had been walking through a narrow lane beside the Kelsey property when he glimpsed the struggle. He saw Stedman. He swore it. Bending over the girl, he said he froze, that his courage failed him, that instead of rushing forward, he ran to summon miners nearby. By the time they reached the scene, Margaret lay still, her hair tangled in the grass, her dress torn, her eyes open to sky that no longer held her. The man who did it had vanished. The men searched the woods in widening circles. They combed the fields. They scanned the ranch yard. And then they saw him, Walter Stedman, walking toward the house, his steps uncertain, his face pale. To them, that was guilt walking. He was seized before he could speak more than a few words, bound, dragged back toward town. He protested. He insisted he had only just discovered the body, that he had been on his way to call for help. His voice did not tremble, but his words fell uselessly among men who had already decided. They laughed at him and threw him into the narrow calaboose, a small stone cell that smelled of rust, sweat, and old despair. But beneath the accusation lay something else, something older. Walter Stedman was not one of them. He had come from the city, arrived when times were hardest, when crops had failed, when wages were thin. He did not join their drinking. He did not laugh at their jokes. When they invited him to share a glass, he declined, politely but firmly. To prideful men, politeness can look like contempt. He was labeled quickly, city chap, better than us. Then Albert Kelsey hired him, while others went without work. Resentment thickened. It curdled. Then came whispers. Stedman admired Margaret. Perhaps she admired him too. They had been seen walking together, seen speaking in low tones. In a town where privacy is rare, secrecy is suspicious. When Kelsey dismissed him from the ranch, the story wrote itself. Rejected lover, bruised pride, revenge. It was neat. It was satisfying. It required no thought. But inside the cell, Walter Stedman sat on the cold floor and stared at the fading light through the tiny barred window. The sky was turning red, deep red. It reminded him of blood. It reminded him that his own life would soon be extinguished. He felt something worse than fear. He felt helplessness. To know you are innocent and know that no one cares. He closed his eyes. Margaret's face came to him, not as she had lain in the grass, but as she had laughed beneath the cottonwoods. They had loved carefully, quietly, waiting for a future. He had promised her he would rise, earn respect, return not as a laborer, but as a man worthy of asking her father's blessing. And then memories shifted. An afternoon in the woods. They had been parting. A sound in the brush. Footsteps. Walter had turned sharply, and through a break in the leaves, he saw a face, dark, twisted, burning with hatred. He had stepped toward it, but the figure vanished. At the time, he had dismissed it. Now, in the cell, that face returned, and he understood too late. Night fell, stars pierced the darkness, and in the shadows of the town men gathered, masks drawn, voices low, boots heavy. They did not knock on the jail door. They broke it. They dragged Walter into the night. No warrant, no trial, no hesitation. Justice had already been replaced by certainty, by anger, by pride. They marched him through the silent streets. Lantern light flickered across his face. He did not beg. He did not struggle. He walked, as though already separated from his body. They left the road, entered Farmer Brown's crosscut, where the tall white oak stood alone against the sky. Its branches spread wide, its trunk thick, its silhouette stark beneath the stars. "That'll do," the leader said. The rope was thrown. The noose tightened. Walter was made to stand on a wooden box. The lantern light trembled in the wind. "If you have anything to say," the leader mocked, "now is your time." Walter lifted his head. His voice carried. "I am innocent. I swear before God. I did not take Margaret Kelsey's life." "Proof," the leader demanded. There was none, not the kind they wanted. "Ready, men." The box was kicked away. And beneath the white oak, an innocent man swung. The body swung, back and forth, slowly at first, then settling into stillness. No one spoke. Even the wind seemed to hesitate. Lantern light flickered against the trunk of the oak, stretching shadows into grotesque shapes. The leader stood with his arms folded, watching, not with anger, not with doubt, but with a cold, inward satisfaction. Then, unexpectedly, he spoke. "I'll tell you something, boys." A few mastheads turned. I was after that girl myself. A murmur rippled through the group. He let the silence stretch. "I didn't have much of a chance," he continued, his voice low. "But, by God, he had just as little." The words hung heavier than the body above them. Some of the men shifted uneasily. Others pretended not to hear. The leader laughed shortly. "He's done. Cut him down." They dispersed before dawn, each man returning home with a story ready, a justification polished, a conscience muted. But something had changed, though none would admit it. Days passed, then weeks. Autumn deepened. Leaves turned brittle. The white oak stood silent in Farmer Brown's crosscut, its branches outstretched like arms that refused to lower. Farmer Brown decided to cut it down. Perhaps he disliked its presence. Perhaps he simply wanted the wood. He and his son began early in the morning. Axes struck, metal bit into bark, saw teeth grown through wood. The trunk split nearly in two, but the tree did not fall. It stood, balanced, defiant, as though held upright by something unseen. Brown wiped sweat from his brow. "There's something queer about it," he muttered. "It stands like it's got a mind of its own." They tried again. Chopped, sawed, pushed. Nothing. The oak remained. Straight. Unyielding. "It's got the devil in it," Brown said finally. And they left it, standing. But while the town returned to routine, the leader did not. At first he felt triumph. A dangerous, secret thrill. He had eliminated a rival and silenced suspicion. But at night, sleep did not come easily. He would close his eyes and see the rope swinging. He would hear the words, "I am innocent," not shouted, not accusing, simply spoken, calmly. He began to avoid the crosscut, avoid the oak, avoid silence. He drank more heavily, laughed louder, spoke harsher. Yet guilt does not dissolve in whiskey. It seeps, quietly, like water beneath a door. Then came the storm, a storm that did not build gently. It arrived violently. Wind screamed through the valley. Rain slashed sideways. Thunder rolled like cannon fire across the hills. It was a night meant for reckoning, and the leader walked alone. Whether by accident or fate, he chose the crosscut as his path home. Branches whipped at his coat. Mud clung to his boots. Lightning tore across the sky, and for an instant the world was white. Then he saw it, the white oak, swaying violently in the wind, still standing, still whole. He stopped, his breath caught. Good God! His voice trembled despite himself. It's the tree. A fragment of rope still hung from one branch, darkened by rain, twisting in the wind. Lightning flashed again, and for a fraction of a second, the rope seemed longer. Longer, thicker, shaped. It curved, formed a noose, and beneath it, a body, swaying, turning slowly, a face pale in the lightning, eyes open, watching. "Damn him!" the leader shouted. "Will he follow me forever?" The wind howled louder. Rain lashed harder. The rope twisted. The body swung closer. "You deserved it," he screamed into the storm. He took her life. The words echoed strangely, as though the trees themselves rejected them. He stepped forward, toward the trunk, toward the vision, as if to strike it, as if to tear it down. And then a sound, deep, splitting, violent. The white oak cracked, not at the cut made weeks before, but higher, near its core. The sound tore through the storm like a scream. The massive trunk shuddered, tilted, and came crashing down, branches snapping, earth shaking. When the thunder faded, when the wind subsided, silence returned, heavy, absolute. Beneath the fallen oak lay the leader, pinned, crushed, his body twisted unnaturally, his face frozen in a final expression of disbelief. No mob, no witnesses, no cheering, only the storm and the fallen tree. From between the shattered trunk and the torn stump, a gray shape slipped free. Small, silent, it paused only a moment, then vanished into blackness beyond the trees. By morning, the town would find him. They would call it accident, misfortune, nature's cruelty. But some would remember the hanging, the confession, the oak that would not fall. Justice had come, not from law, not from men, but from something older, something patient, something that waits. And in the quiet that followed, beneath the broken white oak, the wind moved softly through the leaves, as though nothing had happened at all. The storm passed. Morning found the white oak broken, and beneath it, the true murderer. They hanged an innocent man. They called it justice. But the earth remembered, and the tree did not forget. Some say it was only wind. Others say it was judgment,